like you're watching.
So one of the other trips that I took while I was in Costa Rica was to a place called Cahuita in Limon, the province on the east coast. So we were on the Caribbean side this time. For this trip, I traveled with Lizette, Crisula, and Alejandra. We were so lucky to find this like place where we stayed. It was owned by a young Italian couple, and they were just really nice and sweet. They had their dog there, and I think there was like 7 or 8 like little house things with like 3 beds each in them. And it had like their own little kitchen section too, so we were able to cook on our own. What do you got here? The music?
Music.
And then Lizette did everything else.
I literally did everything else.
Hey, I washed the dishes. For amazing as it was to be there, getting there was so hard. We had planned everything on our own. Well, I mean, the bus ride took 7 hours. And so when we got there, the sun had already set. And we didn't really notice that there weren't any Ubers or like red taxis there to use. We knew where our hotel was. Well, we kind of knew where the hotel was, and we could have walked, but it was kind of far. So we asked a man for, information about taxis or anything, and he happily offered a ride to us in his car for a fee, of course, which we declined because he was, a stranger, and he was pretty angry, so he yelled at us, and we just kind of walked away fast. And that walk in the night to our hotel was probably the most anxious and terrified I've ever been, just because it was nighttime in a foreign country and I had no idea what I was doing, but it was totally worth it. Hey! What up? And the escapades of my awkwardness continued. That's just how it goes. Yeah, I did feel a little bad about just being in the national park, because usually in other places it costs money to get in. Like, that was one of the reasons I didn't go into Manuel Antonio. I was on a really tight budget, and I was already borrowing money just to be there. So when we got to Cahuita National Park, they didn't ask for anything, just donations. So I was like, sweet, I saved some money this time. But the guy was kind of salty with me, I think. It's really hot. The sand is really hot. There's not very many clouds, just sunny. The waves are big. It's really humid. I just hope I'm not getting sunburned. And I wish I could go back in time and tell that guy that to put on more sunscreen or something, because that was the worst sunburn I had ever got in Costa Rica. I've had worse ones in the past, but in Costa Rica, I got the worst sunburn at Cahuita. After we finished up at the beach, which was like 4 hours of swimming, we took a little nature walk. Oh, stop it. It's digging into me. Send help.
That's gonna hurt your sunburn.
I know, but I don't know how else to carry this bag. I found some monkeys. Where the heck they go? Now, if you think of like a park, or I don't know, maybe the mountains in Colorado in the U.S., you know how there's like squirrels and chipmunks running around. I think that's how it was in Costa Rica with monkeys, because they were everywhere. It wasn't a big deal. I mean, we'd never really seen them. After the nature walk, we walked back to the hotel, and on our way stopped for some pizza at this little restaurant on the beach, which was super nice. And after that, we went back to the hotel, and I surveyed the damage of my sunburn. I got sunburned. I think I may have peeled for like 2 weeks after this, but it was all worth it. Like, I think Cahuita was, it definitely was. It was my favorite place that we went, just because we had planned it all on our own. It was, a lot of planning and speaking Spanish to get there, and even though it was a stressful time, we made it. And the ride back to Heredia definitely wasn't as bad. Only 4 hours since we left on a Sunday morning, and we made it back in one piece.